Come meet by the river, see how the time it flows. I'll meet you by the river, see how time it flows. Hello, and today we are doing championship predictions for match day 34 of the 2020 to 21 season for the EFL Championship. And the theme of the week this time is going to be trees. And for once, the song reflects that. It is going to be what I've just sung, Birch Tree by Foals. And the colour of the week this week is going to be white. Okay, let's get into my predictions. But before we do, smash a like on the video. Make sure you know that it's 3 points for the correct result. Then for the correct result and the goal difference, it's 5. And for the score, it's 8 points. Pop your predictions in the comments section below. I'll give you a shout out and we'll see how many points you can score this big midweek round of games. And we're going to first of all review how we did in week 33. In all honesty, it was an absolute stinker of a week. There was some surprises in there. And that included, of course, Watford losing their 4-winning run. Pretty annoying, pretty unfortunate. And we don't want to talk about that game too much because it was a bit of an unsavoury one, to say the least. Also surprised to see that Blackburn still can't find wins. We also found Swansea, they just absolutely blew up in that game. And Nigel Pearson has got Bristol City playing some amazing football. Absolutely incredible. Birmingham finally find their way through. And also, we found ourselves with another draw between Middlesbrough and Cardiff. 1-1 there it was. So, we're going to look at all of those results and see how many points we got. So, we didn't get any correct results in the first 3 matches for Derby, for Bournemouth and for Coventry. However, we did correctly predict a win for Reading away to Rotherham. So 3 points there, don't mind it. We said a 2-0 win for Preston against Huddersfield. It wasn't 2-0, but it was a Preston win. So once again, 3 points for us. We're on to 6. We went with 1-0 to Barnsley against Millwall. And it was a bit more high scoring than that. But we got the correct goal difference. So 5 points. Lovely stuff. 11 points. We said a 1-0 Luton win. Again, it was slightly more high scoring. But we got the correct goal difference. So 5 points. On to 16. And then we said a 4-1 Brentford win. It wasn't that big, but it was still a Brentford win in the end of the day. They bounced back and they got the victory. So 3 points for me there. And we're on to 19. And then we got correct results in the Wycombe loss to Norwich and a correct goal difference in the Middlesbrough game because I said a 0-0. It was, of course, a 1-1. So it's actually quite a decent week. 27 points is how we did in week 33. But can we do better in week 34? I hope so. My overall points tally now is 750. But we're going to kick off this predictions video with a game that is between Millwall and Preston North End. And don't forget, at the end, we will be doing, definitely, I won't forget it this time. I'll make sure I remember my fantasy team and talk about some previous weeks, how we've done. It's been very interesting indeed. But Millwall against Preston. Now, it kicks off at 7 o'clock at the Den. And ultimately, this is a game that Millwall have to be getting something out of. Preston are a bit of a, lost cause at times this season. They have been a team that have been beatable. But Preston, fair play, they completely tore Huddersfield to shreds. And Ched Evans getting a rare goal. Scott Sinclair, though, has not been a player who's got rare goals this season. He's been a very good player for them and has just slightly improved what's been a slightly inconsistent season, but they're starting to climb towards a bit of normality. 2 wins in the last 5 is not great, but they will get back in the groove, I'm sure, and they're trying to hunt down the likes of Millwall, Bristol City, to try and get in that top 10 for the season. And, they're sitting just outside of mid-table right now, but it was a confidence-boosting win, I think, against Huddersfield. But, as I said, they want to catch up with Millwall, and, it is a tough place to go. Millwall are coming off the back of a 2-1 defeat to Barnsley. They will be absolutely gutted. The fact that they reacted so well to the early goal from Cauley Woodrow, Mason Bennett, tying things up, but then they go and shoot themselves in the foot again and they couldn't recover from that point on when really they should have. They had just as much of the ball, but ultimately not enough chances for the Barnsley goalkeeper to deal with. So, yeah, Michael Heelick there getting the winner. And I think that Millwall will look at that result and try and get revenge from it. So I could be wrong here. Preston are a good team, but I'm backing Millwall in this first game. I'm going to say it's going to be an ugly one, but ultimately goals for both sides. Millwall 2, Preston North End 1. And let's say goal scorers in this game, we shall say the goals for Millwall will be coming from, first of all, it's Malone, and then Jed Wallace. And then the consolation scored at the end of the game for Preston, I think will be scored by none other than the man that did find the net in the game against Huddersfield. It's Brad Potts. Okay, now we've got a matchup that's between Coventry and Middlesbrough. Same kickoff time, of course, and it does see the team that just got a point against Cardiff face up against the side that got a point against Blackburn. So, you know, both draws and both very good draws. You know, Middlesbrough haven't had a great season, but they're picking off the odd point here. And Warnock's got them playing a defensive style, and obviously Warnock facing his former team in Cardiff. But ultimately, it was a decent result. When they were losing, they thought they'd probably lost it. You know, neither team were that high of chances. They were both quite goal shy, but Paddy McNair does it again. And Coventry, on the other hand, well, they have had a much tougher season, but we expected them to. And ultimately, Coventry have really just defied the odds. They've just punched above their weight, and they've got some amazing points. And that is included with that point against Blackburn. I know that they've been struggling in form, but it's still a big side, tough place to go to, and a big side to get a point off. So, yeah, Coventry have got to be happy with that. And to see out the draw, especially when they got their man sent off with 7 to go, Ostergaard getting the red card, you know, they had to just have a bit of game management, and they showed that. Now, Coventry, do I think they can stay up this season? I don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility. I think if they keep up some of this momentum, they have got a few defeats recently, but they can fight and battle in games, and this is the sort of game where you would think that would be the case. At home, Coventry have been quite a force to be reckoned with. They've, you know, got points off Watford, and I do believe they beat Norwich at one point in the season, or one of those other big teams. So I think this will be harder than it looks for Middlesbrough, and for that reason, I'm going to go for a draw in the game. Let's say Coventry City 2, Middlesbrough 2, in an absolute cracking game. And I think Borough will get the first goal, and that will be through, in my opinion, midfielder Johnny Howson. And then I think that Coventry will strike back. The Empire strikes back, and it will be a goal from midfielder that is Rothwell. Oh, sorry, that's a Blackburn player. No, midfielder that is Kelly. And then I think Coventry get back ahead, and this time it's through their big, you know, talisman usually, and that is Biamu. But then I think that Middlesbrough will equalise to make it 2-2, and that goal will come from forward Duncan Watmore. Alright, let's move on to the game that is going to be between, in this championship match day, between, of course, Cardiff and Derby County. Now, Cardiff, you know, they would have been gutted to see off that, to not get that win against Middlesbrough. Sean Morrison is scoring goals like there's no tomorrow, and it's actually so annoying, because as soon as we transferred him out in fantasy, he went and started scoring on a little run. So we can't control that, but it's just a bit of a shame he didn't do it whilst he was in my team. But anyway, fair play to Cardiff. You know, they've improved their form, and certainly Mick McCarthy has got them on an amazing run of results, and that game against Borough was the one where it kind of ended with the draw. So they'll want to bounce back from that and, you know, get a bit more of a convincing game and take it by the scruff of the neck. Now, this is a chance where I think they will do that. Yes, Derby have been improved under Wayne Rooney, but they still have problems, and against Nottingham Forest, they did well to recover the point. Colin Kazim-Richards, so often this season, has been the man to get them those goals. But I just feel that at home, Cardiff City will be too strong. So I shall say Cardiff City 3, Derby 1. And I think Colin Kazim-Richards will score again. He's that good. So that's the opening goal of the game. But then Cardiff City hit back with goals of their own, and those will be first of all through loan signing Harry Wilson. I don't know if it's permanent, but anyway, he's at the club. And then the second for Cardiff will come from the other defender that is not Morrison. Come on, just leave it out. It's instead going to be number 16, Curtis Nelson. And then the third for Cardiff to seal off a very good day's work at their stadium is going to be through midfielder Marlon Pack. Okay, now we've got a matchup that is between the two sides of Huddersfield and Birmingham. And this is a game where it could be tight, it could be nervy. So we're going to go for a 0-0. I just don't see both of these teams finding a way through. And Huddersfield have struggled for goals. Birmingham did well against QPR with goals from Pedersen and Halilovic. But I think QPR were in very good form. And I think that kind of result will give Birmingham confidence. However, Huddersfield can just grind teams to a halt. And that's what I think will happen at the St John Smith Stadium. Okay, now we've got a game between Forest and Luton Town. And I think this is actually quite a tough game for Luton. Now, Luton, what an absolute thriller they were involved in with Wednesday. The fact of the matter is they came back very well. Very determined. The goals from Josh Windaz looked like it was game over. But second half, they came out with a new lease of life. And Naismith, Tunnicliffe and Adebayo were the men to get the historic comeback. And the fact that they get the winner in the 86th minute is just what football is all about. But I think that Luton will struggle here just because ultimately this game, it's a really tough one. Forest have defensively improved and, they've steadied the ship under Chris Hughton. And their last result was, of course, that very decent point against Derby, but mainly for James Garner. It was a massive moment because he scored his first senior goal. So, I don't know. I think Forest will just make it tough here for Luton. And it will not be a Luton point, but instead a Luton defeat. But it could be tight. Luton do put up a fight, to be fair to them. And I think that Forest will probably just about have enough. It will be marginal, but it will be enough for the home side to find a way through here. So, what will we say for the scoreline? It's a difficult one, because on their day, Luton can be unpredictable. But we will just edge towards a scoreline of Forest 2, Luton 1. And goal scorers in this one, we shall say the opening goal of the game is scored by forward that is playing for Forest, and that is, of course, the man that is Glenn Murray. What a legend. And then I think that it will be a goal for Luton to equalise, and that goal will be through the man that scored in the most recent, well, not the most recent, but a fairly recent game that Luton played against, I think it was Cardiff, was it? No, not Cardiff. I'm thinking of the other one. No, it was the game against Huddersfield, and that was James Collins. He usually is their talisman. But Forest will finally have the last laugh and get their winner with a goal scored by none other than Anthony Knockart. Okay, now we've got a game that is going to be between, first of all, it is Reading, and then Blackburn Rovers. Now, Reading, say what you like, Reading are a very good team, all right? Their form has been a bit patchy in the last 20 games, like you'd say. They really have dropped off from what their start of the season was, which was just impeccable, really. Impeccable, I think is the better word. But Lucas João is quality. They kind of had to just grind against Rotherham. It wasn't a pretty game. Rotherham, they have threats in the air physically, and they just had to cancel those out. But it was fairly comfortable in the respect that just one shot on target for the Reading goalkeeper, that is, of course, Cabral. He didn't have to do a lot of work that time. But against Blackburn, who are a bit of a wounded animal, I think Reading really can capitalise. So I will go for a Reading victory, and finally they will find a way through. And I shall say a comfortable 2-0 win for Reading to get back on the right terms. Okay, now we've got a game between Norwich City and Brentford. And this, my friends, is a massive matchup. And I've just remembered I didn't do goal scorers for the Reading game, so we shall do that now. Don't you worry about a thing. So, Reading against Blackburn. I'm changing my prediction. All right, say what you like. I'm not going to go with 2-0. Instead, I'm saying 3-1. All right, I think Blackburn will score, but we shall say 3-1 in that game with goals from Harvey Elliott. So Blackburn, first of all, go ahead. And then we shall say that Reading score through Lucas João. And then they get their second goal in the game through none other than the man that played very well, but did get booked against Middlesbrough recently. It's Rinan Motor. So that's the second for Reading. And then the third goal for them will be scored by midfielder Laurent. Okay, that's the game done. Now we've got a game between Norwich and Brentford. Now this is so massive at the top of the table. It's got to be said. You know, you can't understate the importance of this game. And I think that ultimately, you know, they've been in very good form, Norwich City. They've just been tough to stop. But I think that Brentford could be the team that maybe stops them. It's so hard to call, but I'm just going to sway towards Brentford victory. So Norwich City 2, Brentford 3 in a 5-goal thriller. You would love to see it. But goal scorers in this one, I think the first goal will definitely come through Ivan Toney. He scored in the reverse fixture. He's back from injury, full of confidence. He'll get the opening goal. And then Norwich equalise through the midfielder. That is, of course, Emi Buendia. And then I think Norwich will get their goal again. And it's Timu Pukki that turns it around in their favour. But Brentford hit back with goals from Brian Umbermo. I now know the correct pronunciation. And then the third goal for Brentford. Tough one, but we will go with a goal from a defender. Slightly less likely, but could happen. And it will be through Ethan Pinnock. Alright, that wraps up my prediction for that 5-goal thriller between the top two. Massive game this game week. But now we move on to a game that is going to be between, in this championship match day, it's QPR and Barnsley. Now, I ultimately think that this is a game that QPR should be winning. They've beaten some big teams this season, and Barnsley have been a solid team as well. They're maybe just making a late push for the playoffs. They're only 1 point behind Bournemouth. Whereas, of course, the team they're facing this week, in the form of QPR, have just probably left it a bit too late to even do anything in terms of the playoffs. They're pretty far off, joint on points with Forest and with Blackburn in 17th. So I think QPR will get the win despite the difference in the table, because they have good players on their day. Charlie Austin is lethal. You know, they've still got Bright Say Samwell. I think they are a good team at the end of the day. He's not been playing too much recently, has Bright Say Samwell. Maybe that's an injury or something like that. But the point is, they still have men there that can cause problems. And they've got, of course, Chris Willock, who, you know, is a very good player that used to play for Arsenal. But I think that QPR will find a way through here against a very stubborn, at times, Barnsley team, but a team that will lose. So QPR 2, Barnsley 0. And goal scorers in this one, we shall say the goals for QPR come from Charlie Austin, and then it will be a goal from the man that played and scored against Bournemouth. It's Todd Kane. Okay, now we've got a game that is between Watford and Wycombe. Come on, you Horns! We've got a massive game here. Have to go full pelt. And, you know, to lose to Bournemouth, it's a real frustrating one. But we just have to forget about that game. It was simply a really bad day at the office. Not a terrible performance. Neither was Bournemouth's performance that encouraging. But in a frustrating moment of referee getting it wrong, he gives a foul for Lerma when really it was actually a foul from Lerma on Chalobah. And from that free kick, they go and score. So, pretty annoying. But basically, we have to move on. We have to forget the fact that, you know, Bournemouth, they are our rivals and we do hate them. But that game just didn't go our way. And we have to dust ourselves down and just return to the kind of form that we showed in the previous 4 games. Because we were playing some really good football. It wasn't a disaster at the Vitality, but just not, something wasn't quite there in our performance. So, we need to pick ourselves up and improve. And it's a game against Wycombe that really we should be winning. Like, we have to be targeting very big win here. Wycombe have been, you know, fair play to Wycombe. They've, a bit like Coventry, been a team punching above their weight. Ultimately, when it comes to the end of the season, do I see Wycombe staying up? Probably not. Despite the fact I did predict them to do that in my Championship table predictions. But Wycombe have just not had enough goals for them. Uche Ikpeazu is still a solid player in the Championship, but he's not been getting loads of goals. And they were absolutely fuming about that Norwich game because they had a call for a penalty where I think Tim Krul just kind of gets his glove in the face of a player, and you could argue it's a stonewall penalty, but Norwich still did dominate that game, and Wycombe had very little of it. 19 shots compared to Wycombe's 8, so the golfing class is extreme. And I still think there is a golfing class between Wycombe and Watford. We weren't able to show it in our last reverse fixture, a frustrating 1-1 draw where we just got pegged back. I think Sarr scored, and I think that for Wycombe it was one of their defenders. If not, it was probably Anthony Stewart, I think, that did it. So yeah, basically we have to focus in this game. Usually at home we're solid, but with Watford you never quite know. But I'm going to go for a resounding Watford win. Who scores in this game is a tough one because ultimately Watford, we do tend to sometimes show a bit of inconsistency. But I think that we do need to get some confidence back in that team, and I think we can do that if we just keep focus, keep the intensity, because with Munoz as manager, we've had such great team spirit. We've battled through games, and this should be a game we're slightly more comfortable, but as we know with Watford, it can often not be that case. So I shall say a fairly comfortable win for Watford. Watford 3, Wycombe Wanderers 0. And I think, before that Blackburn game that was a few weeks back, we'd won 3 games in 7 days. We've really been taking these games by the scruff of the neck and having the intensity. We have felt at home at the Vic, of course. And yeah, it's a winnable game. We have to just focus on ourselves. And then, of course, once we've done the win and done the job, then we can only rely on other teams getting results and helping us out. But I'm going to go for a win because I think Wycombe, they go for it, but they don't have the end product. Hopefully we should with our quality of players. I think goal scorers, first of all, it will be Ismaila Sarr, the ever-present superstar, and he gets a goal on 27 minutes. Then a goal from William Troost-Ekong. It will be an incredible half volley, in my opinion, from a set piece. We barely score from set pieces. It'd be nice if we changed that. And obviously, from centre-back pairings, we've had so many different combinations, which is a shame. But I think Ekong comes back in and scores to tell the manager, well, I'm still probably your best second, centre-back. But yeah, we'll put the cherry on the cake to get the third. And I think that'll be through Hughes, my favourite Watford player, might as well allow it. Will Hughes to make it 3. Okay, let's move on to our next matchup. And obviously, if we can get a Ken Sema assist in there for my fantasy team, that would be much appreciated. So let's move on to the game that is between. Oh, hang on, we need to go back to the fixtures because we've somehow managed to come off it. Right, okay. Now it's Sheffield Wednesday versus Rotherham. A massive game at the bottom. So tight, this game. In terms of position, but also probably in terms of how it will pan out. It's simple, and it's really got to be said that both these teams have to be getting wins very, very consistently because, they will otherwise just be behind the likes of Birmingham and Coventry. Rotherham are a team that they give it a lot of effort in their game, but they don't have the final product at times. And, they didn't have enough shots on target. They had more shots than Reading, but only 1 on target. And the game before that, it was not exactly ideal against Nottingham Forest. They're getting a lot of narrow defeats, and that is not going to be pleasing for the manager. Against Norwich, of course, they lost 1-0. Gutting goal from, of course, Timu Pukki. But again, Rotherham, they just got to find some momentum from somewhere, and they've faced some tough teams recently. But this is not a tough team. It's a winnable game. And I think that they will find that magic. Sheffield Wednesday have struggled. They really should have got something out of that Luton game. They just kind of just bottled it, really. And the game before that against Brentford, they were outclassed. Don't think they'll get outclassed here, but they will get out-tussled. So Sheffield Wednesday to lose this one by 0 goals to 1. And Rotherham, the only goal scorer for them, I think will be from, let's say it's the defender. That is called, who is it? It's Matthew Olasunde. Matthew Olasunde, if we could actually say it properly. Anyway, now it's Bristol City versus Bournemouth. This is an interesting game for Nigel Pearson. He's also bringing in that manager bounce, but Bournemouth need the win to climb in and catch up with Reading. Now Bournemouth have been a bit shaky, a bit patchy recently, but the Watford win improved their form, turned it around. They are capable of beating the teams around them, like Birmingham's, like your Luton's, but they haven't done that at times this season. Sheffield Wednesday lost, Luton lost, Derby lost, so they do need to be a bit more consistent. And Bristol City have been struggling, but with Nigel Pearson in charge, they've looked at different teams. So you never know. Bristol City could do it again, and I hope for Watford's sake that is the case, because we don't want Bournemouth to catch up with us too much. It's 8 points now. Let's try and not make that gap any smaller. So let's say that it will be a point for Bristol City. Imagine the scenes. Bristol City 1, Bournemouth 1. And goal scorers in this one, we shall say for Bournemouth, the goal scored by Adam Smith. But for Bristol City, I'll go for the man that, of course, scored in the game, assisted in the game against Swansea. It's Zach Viner. So that's 1-1 in that one. And we finally have a game this game week between Stoke City and Swansea City. So hopefully we will get some correct score in that game. Now Swansea are usually quite easy to predict. They get a lot of grinding results, a 1-0, a 2-1. But last week they weren't predictable. Really poor defeat against Bristol City. Even if Bristol City are improved, they should be beating those kind of teams. Andre Ayew remains the ever-present goal scorer for them, and we kind of regretted getting rid of him in fantasy, but it had to be done to get Pookie in. And against Huddersfield they were an absolute shambles. Conor Hourihane has been absolutely brilliant since he's come in, but I think Swansea are usually pretty strong at home, most of the time at least, and they have beaten some big teams this season. Now, Stoke City are probably not a big team, and you know what they say, it's tough to go to the Stoke City and to go to the Bet365 stadium. Can they do it on a rainy night in Stoke? Well, I think they can. I think their team is good enough, and recent results haven't been good, but I think Stoke are struggling for a bit of confidence. 2 defeats in the bounce. Let's say a Swansea win. We'll go for, unfortunately, it's for Watford's sake, but hopefully Stoke do something. But Stoke City 0, Swansea City 3. I know it's a big, actually no, we'll change it. All right, let's go back to what we said about tight Swansea wins. Stoke City 1, Swansea City 2 is my final one. With goal scorers in the game, let's say the first goal is scored by Nick Powell. He's been in pretty good form recently. But the goals for Swansea, Conor Hourihane, of course. And then the second, let's go for midfielder Matt Grimes. And that wraps up my predictions for match day 34 of the Championship. I hope you have enjoyed, and now we will get into fantasy football. So, in the picture of fantasy football, it's going pretty well. It's got to be said. We've used our boosts very, very cleverly. Now, we've only used one of our 3 boosts in the recent update. The deadline is, of course, today, with a game between Millwall and Preston tonight. But the point is, it's a 5:30 deadline, and I'm probably going to make the changes now. So what do we do, lads? That's the question. Lads and ladies, what do we do? Because we did a very, very good week last time. I'll admit, game week 30 was pretty frustrating because, once again, Michael Elise, he never gets points when we want him to. He got 8 points on our bench, and then when we do play him, he gets 2 pointers. And that's been the theme of the week recently. A lot of 2-pointers. But he did at least get a performance bonus in match day 31. But match day 32, 2-pointer. Brilliant. But no, generally, how did we score in match day 33 last week? Well, of course, we were coming off the back of a very, very good score. 97 with a -8 hit, which is pretty impressive. It was all down to that Pookie captain, 30 points. Incredible stuff. But last week we had a big bar. We'd set the bar high, and it was another green arrow. You love to see it. 481 game week rank, which is amazing. So now my overall rank 731. So yeah, 69 points last week. Freddie Woodman, 3-pointer, not ideal. Fry, 4-pointer. You know, at least got a second half clean sheet, I suppose. Smith, another clean sheet. You'll take that. Aarons, what a guy. 10 points. He gets so many points for me. My emergency captain, as we said, Elise let me down with 2. Now, I did, of course, captain Brian Mbeumo, in his game against whoever it was. I think it was it a fairly easy game? I can't even remember, to be fair. Yeah, it was against Stoke City. Well, it wasn't easy, but the point is, he got the points for me. And I could have even captained Ivan Toney, but Mbeumo got the... Mbeumo. I always say Mbeumo. Mbeumo got the assist for one of the goals there. So that is an 18-point haul for a captain. Lovely. The only other captains I could have gone for, I suppose, was Pukki and maybe Aarons, who got 15 and 10 points. Imagine 30 points again or 20 points. But still, 18 is very good. He got the assist and he got the performance bonus for +4. So it's lovely there. 18 from Mbeumo. Elliott, 2 points. Blackburn struggling, but they did, of course, score Elliott in the last game week. So I'll forgive him this time. He's just not been quite on his game. Sema, 2-pointer. He's been struggling to get in games, and that was definitely the case against Bournemouth. Ivan Toney, 9 points. Love to see that. He's back in the groove. Pedro, -2. Red card, bit of a nightmare. And it's also a nightmare because Bachmann actually made some really good saves. And the reason that's a bit of a shame is because he got a first half clean sheet and he got more points than who I started, Freddie Woodman. Yeah, it is what it is, you know. I didn't think we'd do anything against Bournemouth. We didn't, but he got those save points. And Pedro let us down big time. Just a little bit of a lack of composure, a little bit immature from him to get those 2 yellows. But, you know, he misses 1 game. We've at least, you know, got him in his team for future weeks. He's still a goal-scoring threat. It's just it all went a bit wrong against Bournemouth. But it will bench him this week and then play him the week after. So, yeah, it's never nice to see a player with -2. But then the player next to him absolutely delivered, as always. Teemu Pukki, 15 points. The vice-captain, imagine if we'd have captained him. Another 30-point captain haul would have been lovely. But in terms of the bench, 4 from Bachmann, 2 from Powell, none from Pippa, which I'm glad I benched him because he got another yellow card. And then the frustrating thing is, the man we bring in as a transfer, who we weren't looking to play this week due to the tough fixture against Swansea, he goes and gets an assist and a performance bonus. So yeah, 10 points from Viner. Love to see that going forward, but for this week it was a bit of a shame to have him on my bench. But let's talk about my team for this week. We've got Daniel Bachmann in goal against Wycombe. Surely a clean sheet there. We've got Pippa against Birmingham. Those teams usually don't score goals. Viner, he just did very well against Swansea, so hopefully he does the same against Bournemouth. We've got Dale Fry, who came into my team, scored straight away in his game, a few weeks ago, so legend. And against Coventry, hopefully some points. Smith, you know, he's an attacking fullback, hopefully gets something against Bristol City. Brian Mbeumo, absolute legend, did so well for me with the captain. Elliott plays Reading. Reading have been a bit, glitchy recently, a little bit off the form, and they could be exposed by Harvey Elliott. Nick Powell, my guy, just gets points most weeks, and Swansea, after their really poor result, could be still in a bit of a rut, and Nick Powell will pounce, hopefully. Ken Sema is still a big player in that team and could get assists against Wycombe. Tony is going to be my captain. I've gone for vice-captain Powell, just in case that Norwich game is, not high-scoring and, say, Tony doesn't play. Powell could do the bits. But Tony, I've just got a feeling he's going to do well against Norwich. It could easily be Pukki that I captain, but I'm just going to go with Ivan because he's now back in that team. And then emergency captain, Teemu Pukki against Brentford. So my bench is Woodman, Elise, Max Aarons and Pedro. We obviously have to bench Pedro. Aarons faces Brentford. That could be a high-scoring game. If it's a 0-0, then what a shame, but it is what it is. And then Elise has been a bit inconsistent, so we're benching him against Blackburn. We're favouring Harvey Elliott in that game.
So that is my team locked in for game week number 34. Hope you have enjoyed this championship predictions video. Of course, in overall points, we are looking lovely. And we have achieved our target of getting in second in the Voices of the Vic podcast league. We're now lovely 20 points ahead of our opponent in third. So 2,022 overall points is lovely. And also in the Ben HD YouTube League, we're currently really doing well in rank. We're up to 93 out of like 500 people. So yeah, very, very good to see. But overall points, 2022. So thanks for watching this one. I shall see you in the next video. It's been extensive, it's been long, but it's been good. And enjoy the championship midweek action. I shall see you next time.